Bonjour French American, hello international, from my home to yours. So today I'm going to answer another question asked by one of our students who asked me, Melinda, what are you reading? This is an excellent question, and it's one of my favorites because I'm an English teacher. I love to talk about books. And I think that my answer will have something for everyone, all the way from the maternelle through 12th grade, and maybe even for the grown-ups too. We are a community that loves to travel, and right now we can't do that. We can't travel in the flesh, but we can travel in our minds, and that is what literature allows us to do. So let's get started on a literary odyssey. Let's begin with our younger students. So I have some book recommendations for parents and students in the maternelle. I'd like to start with D'Aulaire's Books of Myths. This is the Norse Book of Myths, and you can see that the books have fabulous illustrations. There's also a book of Greek myths, and that one's also very interesting. The illustrations are gorgeous. We just took the paper cover off. So, in the books of myths, you're going to want to pick and choose, parents. Some of them are probably not stories you want to read right now with small children. Some of them are perfectly fine. But it's great to get kids started early on myths. It gets them ready for some big ideas and big themes later. So I strongly suggest D'Aulaire's Books of Myths, where you will encounter all kinds of things like Greek heroes and heroines. This is Aphrodite. You can also read the Norse myths, and there'll be more about why those are important too in just a minute. Moving on to the lower school, I want to suggest that all of our lower schoolers, all the way from first grade all the way through fifth, if you haven't already read them, that you read Rosemary Setcliff's books about the Trojan War. The first one is called Black Ships Before Troy. And the second one is called The Wanderings of Odysseus. These are absolutely worth reading. I'm going to show you one of the beautiful illustrations from the books. So you can see here, oops, more like that. Here I am. All right, these beautiful images of Odysseus traveling from the Trojan War, trying to make his way home. And these stories are really essential in literature, and they're also just riveting. There's really good stuff in them. There's travels home from a war. There are monsters. There's some love thrown in there. And there's the story of Odysseus' son, Telemachus, who is searching for him while Odysseus is trying to get home. That's very important. So these books are fabulous. Absolutely worth a read. Rosemary Setcliff. So for lower school as well, and for some students this will be an I read to you book, and for other students it'll be I read it myself, depending on your age level. And all the way through middle school, frankly, all the way up into adulthood, I'd also like to suggest another story. This is Michael Chabon's Summerland. It's a wonderful novel. It's also a nice big book, so you're going to get a lot of shelter-in-place evenings out of this one. It's a really terrific story of a son who is searching for his father. And it's got lots of strong characters, female and male characters. It's got magical animals. It's got Greek myths and Norse myths and Native American stories in it, along with folk tales. Chabon really pulls together a lot of the literary traditions into a fabulous story that really can speak to children of all ages. So I strongly recommend it. This happens to be my family's favorite book. We must have read this book a dozen times to our children, and they also read it on their own. So I strongly suggest it. It's a very, very good read. And again, big enough to keep you busy for several nights or several weeks in shelter in place. All right, you can probably sense where I'm going with this one if you've made it thus far in the video. The next book I'd like to recommend is for middle and high school students and, of course, parents. And that is, of course, Homer's Odyssey. This is one of the essential stories in the Western literary canon, and it's absolutely worth your time to read. You'll see here that I've chosen the Fagles translation. There are many translations of the Odyssey. This happens to be my preferred translation. That said, there are a few new ones out that I haven't read yet, so I look forward to exploring those. I just don't see how anybody can turn down a story that begins like this. Sing to me of the man, Muse, the man of twists and turns, driven time and again off course, once he had plundered the hollow heights of Troy. Many cities of men he saw and learned their minds. Many pains he suffered, heartsick on the open sea, fighting to save his life and to bring his comrades home. This is a good story. And it's also the basis of a great deal of our literature now. So, excellent read, the culmination of all the things that I've just shown you. Something to think about reading yourselves, perhaps, and definitely for middle and high school students to have a look at. Now, if all of that literature has given you the desire to travel, as it did me, then I have a final recommendation for all the families in our community. During shelter in place, I have been doing all kinds of walking. I've taken lots of hikes in my neighborhood, up and down Mount Davidson, and I've walked all over the city. And this is a book that I've used to do that. It's called Walking San Francisco's 49-Mile Scenic Drive. And believe it or not, during shelter in place, my husband and I have walked the entire 49-mile scenic drive. You can do these as walks from one place to another or as loops. We did mostly loops, which, if you think about that, means that we actually walked about 98 miles. That's a lot of miles. I have sore feet. But it's been really interesting to walk around our city and to learn about the city as we walk. And the book tells you a lot about what you're seeing as you walk past. So that's absolutely a fun thing for families to do during shelter in place as well. The most important takeaway of all of this, of course, is that you should keep reading, no matter what you're reading. The back of a milk box, a milk jug, or a wonderful novel, all of it's good for you. And I look forward to talking with you when we are back on campus about everything that you've read. Okay, thank you and take good care. Bye-bye.